Picture this: your home, your town, the place where you grew up and where your family has lived for generations, suddenly ruled by another country. Imagine waking up one morning to find that the familiar faces of your neighbors are shadowed by the presence of foreign soldiers, and the language you hear in the streets is no longer your own. The traditions you cherish, the songs you sing, and the stories you tell your children are suddenly at risk of being silenced or forgotten. This is not just a change in government, it's a transformation of daily life, a shift that touches every corner of your existence. This is exactly what happened in Alsace, a beautiful and unique region nestled in the eastern part of France. Known for its rolling vineyards, charming villages, and a culture that blends French and German influences, Alsace was a place where people felt a deep connection to their land and their heritage. Life here moved at its own pace, shaped by the rhythms of the seasons and the bonds of community. But all of that changed in the blink of an eye. In 1870, a war broke out between France and Prussia, a powerful German kingdom. The conflict, known as the Franco-Prussian War, was fierce and devastating. Prussian armies swept across the land, and after months of fighting, France was defeated. The outcome of this war would change the fate of Alsace forever. As part of the peace treaty, the regions of Alsace and Lorraine were taken from France and became part of the German Empire. Overnight, the border shifted, and the people of Alsace found themselves citizens of a new country, whether they wanted it or not. The familiar tricolour flag of France was replaced by the black, white and red of Germany. For many, it felt as if their very identity was being rewritten. Imagine being a child in Alsace at this time. You go to school expecting to learn and play as always, but suddenly everything is different. The lessons are no longer in your native French, but in German, a language you may not even understand. The stories and poems you loved are replaced by unfamiliar words and customs. The teachers, once friendly and familiar, now enforce strict new rules. The comfort of your own language is taken away, replaced by confusion and fear. That's what happened in Alsace. Families who had always spoken French at home now had to be careful, worried that speaking their language could get them in trouble. Children struggled to keep up in school, and parents feared for their future. The sense of belonging, of being part of a community with shared traditions and language, was suddenly threatened. The Prussians, now the new rulers of Alsace, declared that only German could be taught in schools. French was banned from the classroom, and students were forced to adapt to a new language and a new way of life. For many, this was more than just a challenge. It was a loss of identity. The language they spoke at home, the words that carried their memories and dreams, were no longer welcome in public life. This was incredibly hard for the people of Alsace. They felt isolated in their own homeland, caught between two worlds. The pressure to abandon their language and traditions weighed heavily on everyone, from the youngest child to the oldest grandparent. Some tried to resist in small ways, whispering French at home, sharing stories in secret, holding on to their customs as best they could. But the fear of punishment was always present. Language isn't just a collection of words, it's the heart and soul of a people. Their history, their laughter, their dreams, and their hopes for the future. For the people of Alsace, losing the right to speak their language felt like losing a part of themselves. Yet, even in the face of hardship, many held on to their identity, passing down their language and traditions in secret, determined to keep their heritage alive for generations to come. Franz, a young boy in Alsace, is our guide in this story. He's often late for school, but today feels different. It's strangely quiet. Franz is surprised to see the classroom windows closed. He's even more surprised to see his strict teacher, Mr. Hamel, dressed in his best clothes. Mr. Hamel is usually very serious, but today he looks sad. Franz is shocked. Mr. Hamel announces it's their last French lesson. From now on, they'll only learn German. Mr. Hamel's voice shakes as he talks about how beautiful and important the French language is. He calls it the clearest, most logical language in the world. He tells his students to protect it, to never forget it. The classroom is filled with sadness. Everyone feels a sense of loss. Even old Mr. Hauser, the former mayor, sits at the back, sharing the sadness. Franz, who never cared much for French class, now listens to every word Mr. Hamel says. He understands, maybe for the first time, how important his language is. He sees his classmates and the villagers differently now, united in their sorrow. The last lesson isn't just about a language being banned. It's a story that echoes through the halls of history, reminding us how fragile the things we take for granted can be. When a language is silenced, it's not just words that are lost. It's the laughter, the stories, the lullabies, and the wisdom passed down through generations. It's the comfort of speaking in your mother tongue, the pride of reciting poems learned as a child, and the sense of belonging that comes from shared understanding. It's about losing something much bigger: identity, culture, and freedom. Imagine waking up one day to find that the language you grew up with, the one that shaped your thoughts and dreams, is suddenly forbidden. The classroom, once a place of learning and laughter, becomes a space of silence and fear. The children who once eagerly raised their hands to answer in their native tongue now sit quietly, afraid to speak. The teachers, too, feel the weight of this loss, knowing that with each lesson in a foreign language, a piece of their heritage slips further away. The title itself is like a heavy sigh, a symbol of what's been taken away. The last lesson isn't just a lesson in grammar. It's a lesson in loss, in resilience, and in the quiet strength of a community determined not to forget who they are. The act of erasing words from the blackboard becomes a metaphor for erasing memories, for wiping away the traces of a culture that once thrived. Language connects people to their history, their ancestors, their land. It's the thread that weaves together the fabric of a community, linking past to present. When that thread is cut, the connection to one's roots is threatened. The stories of grandparents, the songs sung at family gatherings, the names of places and traditions, all risk being forgotten. The classroom becomes a battleground not just for education, but for the survival of a way of life. Losing it is like losing a part of yourself. It's a quiet ache, a longing for something that once was. The children look out the window, wondering if they'll ever hear their language spoken freely again. They clutch their books tightly, holding on to the last remnants of their identity. The hallways echo with memories of laughter and learning, now replaced by uncertainty and fear. But even with this loss, there's a quiet resistance, a spark of hope that refuses to be extinguished. In whispered conversations and secret notes, the language lives on. The students and teachers share knowing glances, silently promising to remember, to keep their culture alive in whatever way they can. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the determination to hold on to what matters most, a determination to keep their language alive in their hearts, in their homes, and in their memories. The last lesson is a reminder that even when the world tries to silence a voice, the echoes of that voice can endure, carried forward by those who refuse to forget. As class ends, Mr. Hamel, overcome with emotion, writes "Vive la France" on the board in big letters. It's a powerful message of patriotism and defiance. The words stick with Franz. They remind him of his heritage, his identity, and the importance of standing up for what he believes in. Though this story unfolded in a particular era and in a small village, its message echoes far beyond those boundaries. The classroom, with its worn wooden desks and sunlight streaming through tall windows, could be anywhere in the world. The lesson taught there is not just for the students of that day, but for all of us, across generations and continents. The last lesson is more than a tale from history. It is a gentle reminder that the things we often take for granted, like the language we speak every day, are precious. When we listen to the story of Franz and his classmates, we realize that language is not just a tool for communication. It is a living thread that connects us to our past, our culture, and to each other. Language shapes our thoughts, our dreams, and the way we see the world. It is the vessel for our stories, our songs, and our traditions. When we speak in our mother tongue, we are not just using words. We are expressing our identity, our history, and our hopes for the future. The story of Franz reminds us that sometimes we only realize the true value of something when it is threatened or taken away. As he sat in that classroom hearing his language spoken for what might be the last time, he understood that language is the core of who we are. It is the foundation upon which our communities are built and the bridge that links us to our ancestors. Like Franz, we must learn to cherish our languages, to see them as treasures that deserve our respect and protection. Every word we speak, every story we share helps to keep our language alive. It is our responsibility to nurture it, to pass it on to the next generation, so that they too can feel the pride and belonging that comes from speaking in their own voice. We must keep our languages alive, not just for ourselves, but for the children who will come after us. When we teach them our words, our songs, and our stories, we are giving them a gift that will last a lifetime. We are ensuring that the wisdom and beauty of our culture will never be lost. In a world that is growing ever more connected, we should celebrate the many languages and cultures that make our world so rich and vibrant. Each language is a unique way of seeing the world, and together they create a tapestry of human experience. By honoring and preserving our languages, we honor ourselves, our ancestors, and the generations yet to come. Language is like the DNA of a culture. It carries the stories, the songs, and the history of a people. When a language disappears, we lose a unique way of seeing the world. Imagine a world where everyone spoke the same language. It might seem simpler, but we would lose so much of the beauty and variety that makes our world so interesting. The last lesson tells us to do something. It tells us to learn about our own languages, to speak them with pride, and to teach them to our children. Let's celebrate the richness of our languages and work together to protect them for future generations. Let's make sure no language ever has to have its last lesson.